It's mostly universally accepted that the FNaF 6 fire was a very satisfying end to the FNaF series, and that if characters like Afton or the puppet or missing children are back, it would ruin the ending of FNaF 6. But is that really true? A while ago I made a video on why Henry's plan was a little bit stupid, but I wanted to enhance my points and discuss all the reasons why the fire probably didn't work, but why that is a good thing. This is the final part of a 5-part long extended theory, so if you haven't yet, I recommend watching the previous 4 videos, which were about whether or not Dream Theory was once canon, Lally's Games answer for the FNAF 4 box, the identity of the Fredbear plushie, and why FNAF 6 is Fredbear's Family Diner. I'm expecting this will be a controversial video, and I understand why. If you believe the fire worked, then I understand, but I honestly just don't think that it did. And I also don't think that FNAF 6 would have been a good ending to FNAF. But why? Let's talk about that. The story The Mimic from Tales from the Pizzaplex Book 6 Nexi has been one of the biggest talking points recently in terms of FNAF theorizing, and I've discussed my take on it already multiple times, so I won't bore you with it again. However, just because the Mimic isn't Afton doesn't mean that Burntrap isn't. I made a video where I discussed this a week ago, but there's some stuff I want to mention here that I didn't in that other video. In Princess Quest, we see essentially the same scene as the Old Man Consequences minigame from Ultimate Custom Night, with Cassidy here trying to stop Glitchtrap and that conversation with Old Man Consequences happening both while William was in Ultimate Custom Night and when Glitchtrap was around. That means that Ultimate Custom Night was still going on by the time of Security Breach, or at least by the time of Princess Quest. Afton is still inhabiting his body, and he's being tortured. But then there's the body we see on Burntrap, and while it very well may be Kelly's, there's some aspects of it that don't really make sense to have just accidentally happened to be the way they are. Like, how is the skull just completely covering the endoskeleton head when the Mimic literally crushed Kelly? It wouldn't make sense. While some of the flesh on Burntrap is most likely Kelly's, it seems likely that Afton's body is still a part of it. It's likely that the Mimic wanted to become Afton rather than just imitating him, so he forced Vanessa to combine Afton with the Mimic, and that's what created Burntrap. Considering Vanessa literally made Freddy dig down under the Pizzaplex, if his body is the only thing here that pertains to the Mimic's plans, and there's a body on the Mimic who is mimicking Afton, logic tells us that the body probably is Afton's, and his spirit is still a part of the body as he's in Ultimate Custom Night. It's possible that he is dormant on the body, but it's also possible that the Mimic program allowed him to escape his torture, giving him some control over Burntrap. Plus, whether he controls Burntrap or not, Afton doesn't completely disappear after FNAF 6 and Fazbear Frights either, and while I don't think those epilogues are a part of the game universe, they still show that Afton didn't die from the fire, and he also didn't even completely go away after he was freed from Ultimate Custom Night. He does die after he's in Ultimate Custom Night, but his spirit remains, so even if Afton wasn't alive when his body was combined with the Mimic, his spirit would still be down here. Some argue that this would make the Mimic useless, but it doesn't really, since the Mimic is Glitchtrap, and Glitchtrap possesses Vanny and is the one who forced her to go down under the pizza place. Essentially what I'm saying is that without the Mimic, Afton wouldn't be back at all, meaning he isn't useless, and there's also the point that he may not be controlling the Mimic at all and may still be being tortured by the one you should not have killed. So in that case, the Mimic would still just be the only villain, without Afton's spirit anyway. Either way, the Mimic is still pretty important. The thing about Afton's experience in FNAF 6 though, is that he tells us that he literally knows it's a trap.
What a deceptive calling. I knew it was a lie the moment I heard it, obviously, but it is intriguing nonetheless.
William is a very calculating, manipulative, and intelligent man, and he wouldn't have knowingly walked into a trap if he didn't have a backup plan. It's likely that he is either responsible for or knew that the Mimic would enter the Fazbear systems, and if he didn't, would Afton dying in a fire that he knew was a trap really be a satisfying conclusion to his character? No, it wouldn't. Afton's goal is literally to be immortal, so if he knew this was a trap, he wouldn't go unless he knew that he would make it out. Otherwise, that would just be stupid. It would be a bad conclusion to his character. So Afton was, while maybe or maybe not still dormant, not destroyed by the fire, at least in my opinion. But that wouldn't exactly make the whole ending a failure, right? Unless, of course, the puppet, missing children, the bite victim, and Michael were back, but they're not, right? Wait, was Henry really the only person to die in the FNAF 6 fire? A really overshadowed and overlooked part of Security Breach are the staff bots, which to me are a very interesting part of the game. The Nightmare staff bots were apparently important enough to be teased at the end of the Security Breach trailer and also in Freddy and Friends on Tour. When the first Freddy and Friends teaser released, I had no idea what the glitch face could be until Ozone made a video where he mentioned that it looked a lot like Nightmare Yon. This gave me the idea that maybe the puppet could still be around by the time of Security Breach, but is it possible that she's in the staff bots? There's quite a few Nightmare Yon connections in Security Breach. There's some on arcades, there's a lot of plushies around, there's the Nightmare staff bot designs, and there's the tentacles in the blob, when the only other tentacles we've seen in the series were from Nightmare Yon and FNAF VR, and the puppet itself in You're the Band. But what is even more interesting is the design of the staff bots. They have reddish cheeks, blue tear tracks, and some of the bots are actually security bots. These staff bots are the puppet. The puppet, of course, has bluish purple tear tracks and red cheeks. The puppet was originally the security puppet made to protect Charlotte, which failed and Charlotte died. In the security puppet minigame, the puppet gains its tear tracks from being possessed by Charlotte. Considering the staff bots have tear tracks like the puppet, is it possible they are possessed by Charlotte too? In each episode of Freddy and Friends on Tour, the song sung at the end of the episode ties into the secret in the episode, and that makes it really interesting that the first episode references turning up the music and this band rocking forever and ever.
We're turning up the music, we're having a ball. This band keeps rocking forever and ever.
The fact that we see a blob tentacle at the end could be saying that the missing kids, the original band, are rocking forever because they're not free yet, though I'll get back to that later. But the music references very much seem to connect to the puppet, which could either be saying that the blob is the puppet or that the Nightmare staff bots are the puppet. Why would they be attacking Gregory? In the fourth closet and sister location, the spirits of the missing kids are split up between multiple bodies, which makes them still aware but a lot more confused than they were. If Charlotte's spirit was split up between maybe 100 staff bots, you'd bet they would be confused. Hell, you can even hear Nightmare and Nightmare Yon's jumpscare scream in the background of the Nightmare staff bots, which further tells us that there is a connection between them. The Princess Quest ending shows the staff bots being deactivated after we destroy Glitchtrap, meaning that Glitchtrap has infected all of these staff bots. Vanny is possessed by Glitchtrap and is basically his servant. He still needs her. We know that if he has to, Glitchtrap can make the animatronics go against their programming, so then why did the staff bots rip apart Vanny in the alternate Vanny ending? Gregory told them to, yeah, but we know Glitchtrap could have stopped them from doing that, and probably would have, so then why do they kill Vanny unless there's another entity in these staff bots? Even if they're not aware, it would make sense that there's someone else in here, and that someone could very well just be the puppet. In Help Wanted, Hand Unit tells us that for the VR game, the development team tried to make it as authentic as possible by scanning circuit boards from certain animatronics into the game to make the in-game version of that character act like they normally would, those circuit boards likely being from the Mimic to have him mimic the old animatronic movements and actions and stuff.
We went to great lengths to create an authentic VR experience, including using scanned photographs for reference and using original performance routines where applicable. Using proprietary technology developed by Fazbear Entertainment, our VR development teams were able to use vintage control boards almost like plug and play, digitally recreating performances and personalities from the past in an instant.
But for the security bots, it wouldn't be far-fetched that they scanned a security puppet with tears and red cheeks into a security robot with tears and red cheeks. There's also the fact that the sticky note room door is called Charlie Door in the files of Security Breach, and considering there's a bunch of staff bots in there, it not only implies that Charlotte is still around, but also that she is in the staff bots. Maybe one specific still working staff bot was thrown into this room and slowly rose back to consciousness. So what about the bite victim? Where is he back? I used to think that the bite victim ended up in Glamrock Freddy, but now I think it's more likely that Edwin is Glamrock Freddy, so there's no definitive proof that the bite victim is back in a specific form, but it's safe to say that he wouldn't have let himself free without Charlotte and the missing kids, so if they are to be back, he probably would be too. Where is he? It's very possible that he's still just attached to Michael, but then how is Michael back? Well, I'll tell you, he's not Glamrock Freddy, because he's not dead. Now, one of the things that implies this is Gregory being a robot, but this is already a controversial video, and since Gregbot is debatably the most controversial theory to exist in recent years, I'll just skip over that. But that's not all there is anyway. I've made a whole video on this topic, but I'll just go over the basic reasons for it in this video. In FNAF 6, the certificate of completion is received, and we get a cutscene of Tutorial Unit talking to us about it. Now, in all the other endings, Tutorial Unit is talking to Mike, Michael, the protagonist, not the audience playing the game. Michael is being spoken to after the fire, meaning he has to have survived it. There's also the FNaF AR emails, which have someone named M. Afton, someone working for Fazbear Entertainment, receiving an email, which means that he's still around during the Pizzaplex era. And finally, there's the fact that Remnant doesn't burn in fire, meaning that the Remnant in him from Sister Location would still be keeping him alive. But wait, let's backtrack for a second. Why would Remnant not burn in fire? FNaF 6 says it does, doesn't it? Well, not really, but before we get into that, we need to talk about the missing children. The blob in Security Breach is an amalgamation of animatronics tangled together within wires with a Funtime Freddy head in control of it trapped underneath the FNaF 6 building, which perfectly matches Molten Freddy, and while they do look different, they are essentially the same thing. The FNaF Character Encyclopedia also claims that not only does the blob have its origins tied to Ennard and Molten Freddy, but also that Molten Freddy appears in Security Breach, which tells us that the blob and Molten Freddy are one and the same, only that the blob is just Molten Freddy after the fire and with some extra stuff. However, Molten Freddy contained the souls of the missing children, meaning the blob could potentially still have them as well. But is there actually any evidence to suggest that they are? The novel trilogy, and more specifically the Twisted Ones and the Fourth Closet, have a lot of parallels to Security Breach. In the Twisted Ones and in Security Breach, William Afton is trapped underneath a wrecked Freddy's location that had a mall built on top of it. Not only that, but Afton, or more like the Mimic program mimicking Afton, is controlling those animatronics, while both Afton and the Mimic endoskeleton are under there. There's also the absence of one of the main animatronics, despite us knowing that character did exist, i.e. Twisted Chica and Glamrock Bonnie. Monty also loses his legs in Security Breach, and in the Twisted Ones, the first appearance of Twisted Foxy has him stuck in the ground, neither of his legs visible. And finally, there's a wolf in both games, and Twisted Wolf and Roxy are the only wolves in the series. But the Twisted Ones is not the only novel trilogy book that has connections to Security Breach. The Fourth Closet also has connections to it, and those ones are just as interesting. In the Fourth Closet, William has been fixed up with the help of Baby. William makes the fun times to kill kids and also uses Remnant to heal himself, and in Security Breach, the glitch trap virus possesses Vanessa, who kills kids, and also most likely makes Remnant to regenerate parts of Afton's body. And Vanessa has some connections to Elizabeth, Baby. And as I talked about in my timeline video, she could still be back possessing Vanessa. At the end of the Fourth Closet, the Remnant amalgamation, an amalgamation of animatronics containing the missing children's spirits, realizes that Afton is not their friend, and they throw him into the fire. In the Afton ending, the blob is at first on Burntrap's side, attacking Gregory to stop him from opposing Burntrap's possession of Freddy, but then at the end, the blob turns on Burntrap and attacks him, not to mention that he was in a burning down room. This shows that not only is the blob Molten Freddy, but he also contains the spirits that Molten Freddy had before the fire. They weren't set free. There's also the line from Freddy and Friends episode 1 that I mentioned earlier. This band keeps rockin' forever and ever, in the same episode where the blob is teased. This seems to imply that Freddy and his friends are still rocking to this day, to the time of Security Breach, meaning their spirits aren't free yet. Plus, in Happiest Day, the puppet is released along with everyone else, and since I've talked about how she is still around, that means Happiest Day hasn't happened yet, which means that the missing kids are still around. But they can't be, right? Because they were the Remnant in Molten Freddy, so wouldn't they have burned away? Well, no. In the Fourth Closet graphic novel, Circus Baby tells Afton that if he heats up the Remnant anymore, it would be destroyed, but Afton replies to this saying that they can't be destroyed. I mean, it's pretty much blatantly stated that they will not be destroyed by the heat. Some people argue that this isn't in the original book, but given the fact that the scripts for the graphic novels are provided, meaning that they are canon, I think it's pretty clear that Afton here is telling the truth. Another thing that a lot of people argue is that the end of the Fourth Closet seems to show that Afton and the Remnant amalgamation burn in the furnace and die from that. But here's the thing. William is their killer. The kids wouldn't want to be set free if their killer is still around, and that's even if they could be. But furthermore, in the Fourth Closet, Afton's spirit actually appears in the Remnant world. Afton isn't only using the Remnant to heal himself, he is using himself to keep the Remnant functional. The spirits can really be set free whenever they want, even if they possess something, but they can't leave without closure. Charlotte can't leave without the missing children, the bite victim can't leave without his friends, and the missing children can't leave until they get revenge on William. When William finally does die in the series, that is when Happiest Day will happen, but it hasn't yet. To further this point, the fact that William is inside the Remnant with all the missing kids likely means that he's keeping them here. Afton is keeping tabs on the missing kids. That's why when William finally does die at the end of the fourth closet, the spirits are set free. How did Afton die to the fire at the end of the fourth closet if remnant doesn't burn in fire then? Because the spirits choose. At the end of the book, Michael Brooks and the rest of the missing children choose to keep Carlton alive. Carlton was slowly being killed by the remnant, but the missing children chose to save him. What that means is that when remnant inhabits a metal and you are injected with it, it actually naturally kills you, because it very nearly does kill Michael and Carlton until the missing kids in both cases intervene.
Plus, it's literally boiling liquid metal, so if it was coursing through your blood, then yeah, you'd probably be dying too.
So if the missing kids believed that Afton was their friend, the kids giving him a get out of death free card would make sense, but then realizing that Afton isn't their friend would clearly sever that connection and let the remnant pump through his body and the fire actually burn him alive. The whole point here is that remnant doesn't burn in fire, but you may be saying to yourself that we are literally told in FNaF 6 that it does. But that's not really true, because if we go back to what FNaF 6 says about remnant, we see that it says there is a possibility that it might burn in fire. A chance. It's not certain. FNaF 6 was always leaving the door open for more story in the future. FNaF 6 really didn't work, but the reason I actually think that's a good thing is because Henry's plan is really flawed. He sees the insanity ending blueprint, sees that there's a chance that remnant will be destroyed by fire, and he literally takes it as an absolute certainty and burns everyone. Now, I would understand this if Henry didn't literally kill himself in the process. Like, if he wants to die, sure, and if he wants to end everything, sure, but considering his plan being successful wasn't certain, it would have been smarter for him to burn everyone but then not die in the process so that he would still be around to see if it worked. And then, if he wants, he can let himself die another way, like from age or a disease, or intentionally if he wants. But this was the worst possible way that he could have killed himself. Another reason why this plan is stupid is because we literally earlier in the very same year of FNaF 6 see both Springtrap and the puppet at the fire in FNaF 3, and we know from Sister Location that they didn't escape, but rather they were trapped inside FNaF 3 for a while before eventually escaping. They burned in a fire and survived. So why does Henry believe that the second time it would just work perfectly? It doesn't make sense. Henry's plan is just really stupid because there isn't really any way that the plan would work, and even if there was, there's no reason that Henry should be so certain that it would. And it's for those reasons that I don't have a problem with FNaF 6 failing. Was the ending awesome? Absolutely, but when you take a second to really look at the details, you'll find it just isn't a great conclusion. Don't get me wrong, it's not like Henry did nothing. The animatronics, while still possessed, are trapped underneath FNaF 6, so if it weren't for the mimic, they probably would mostly be harmless for the rest of time itself. But it doesn't change the fact that Henry expected to release all the remaining souls when he really had no reason to believe that he would be able to, and he didn't even stay alive to ensure that it worked. He killed himself in the process. And might I add that he kills himself with fire, and burning alive is supposedly one of, if not the worst pain that humans can experience. And Henry decides, that's how I want to die. Yeah, I made a humorous clip to represent Henry's plan back when I made this type of video a long time ago, so I'll just play that for you right now in case you want to laugh.
Ooh, these two animatronics just survived a goddamn fire. Let's burn them again and assume it'll kill them this time, because why the hell not? Ha 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 ha. Oh, and while we're at it, let's burn Mike and Molten Freddy, who have remnant in them which is said to possibly burn in fire, so let's just take that as an absolute certainty. Also, let's burn Circus Baby, even though nothing about her is even implied to burn in fire. Yay! And in the process, to make sure I have no idea when it fails miserably, not if, but when it fails miserably, let's kill my 80-year-old ass too. But that's everything I wanted to talk about today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to, and let me know if you agree that FNaF 6 didn't work, and whether or not you think that would be a good thing. I do know that this is a controversial theory, so this is one of those videos where I feel like I should say, it's just a theory, so if you disagree, then I hope you at least enjoyed the video, because I did put a lot of work into it. But yeah, I do hope you guys enjoyed this 5-part extended theory, and I just want to say thank you for all the support. This is my last video before Ruin comes out tomorrow, and I will be streaming Ruin tomorrow at 10 AM EST. Believe me, I'm waking up really early just to play Ruin as soon as possible, and saying waking up, it might be a stretch, because I don't know yet if I'm even gonna go to sleep. Keep in mind, it's summer break. I usually wake up around like 1 PM, but just to play Ruin for myself and for you guys, if I do even go to sleep at all, I'll be waking up around 9 o'clock to stream it at 10. I'm super excited for Ruin, and I hope you all are too. And to those of you who are, to those of you who will be watching my stream tomorrow, I'll see you all in Ruin.
Cassie, I hope you get this message. I'm trapped here at the Pizzaplex, or what's left of it. I don't have time to go into how I got here, but you've got to help me out. Save me, Cassie, please. It's so dark down here.
Gregory, run!
Don't give up on me yet.